Everybody loves talking about financial freedom. Almost nobody talks about what happens when you lose it. For the last 3 years, I've been living through one of the hardest financial periods of my life. And strangely enough, it changed how I think about money, work, success, and even this podcast. Today, I'm telling that story. Welcome to the JC Luck Podcast, episode 29. This is the most honest conversation I've ever had. In this episode of the JC Luck Podcast, I want to talk about financial freedom. But first off, this isn't just an episode about money. Uh, from here on forward, I am going to attempt to publicly document my journey towards more financial freedom. I will talk about the mistakes and the wins and the experiments, and hopefully also the positive results. Uh, if you're trying to build more financial freedom for yourself, uh, maybe you will learn something from my journey. I hope so. But of course, it comes with a disclaimer. I am no financial expert. I therefore consider this content for entertainment purposes only. I can tell you about my story, but my story is of course totally different than yours. If you feel like you need financial help, I strongly advise you to talk to a professional. Of course, I hope my personal journey still inspires you or gives you some uh, tips or advice to think about, but it is only solely for entertainment purposes and for to tell you about my personal journey toward more financial freedom. With that said, I hope you still find it helpful though. Before we dive into the episode, I want to give a quick shout out to all of you supporters out there and all my followers and all those people who like my posts or the subscribers who support me on Patreon and on TikTok and everywhere else. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. You guys keep me going. So, let's start with how I got myself into a financial mess. I've been a freelancer for 16 years. Uh, uh, in the years that I started to do a little better every year. And then I hit some really big clients and I started to do really well. Uh, I then ended up having two of my best years about 5 years ago, 5, 6 years ago. Uh, but at that moment, my income mainly came from one big client. And then uh, all of a sudden, I lost that client and my income completely tanked. And of course, such things never come at the, if they even can, never come out at the right moment. I at that moment was dealing with high medical bills, for example, and I was arranging my marriage, which surprisingly costs a lot as well, even if you keep it low key. I found out later on. And so it was at a year that I was spending thousands of euros. Uh, and it was also during a period that my wife didn't have work yet because she just recently moved to Spain, which also cost us a lot of money. Uh, but at the same time, at that same year, I lost my big client for who I had been with who I had been earning a lot for the last 2 years. Uh, Also, the tax bill came in for those last 2 years, and it wasn't good. It immediately plunged us into big financial trouble. So, how does it feel to be in financial trouble? Well, of course, it's a very negative experience. You feel stress, you feel despair, you don't know what's going to happen with your life. Yeah, of course, it brings a lot of stress and despair because you don't know what's going to happen with your life. Like, do you need to move out of your apartment? Will you even have enough money to feed yourself and support your family? It's it definitely ages you, especially if it goes on for a long time, which was unfortunately the case with us. Um, it lasted at least 3 years. Got a little better along the way, but especially those first 2 years were harsh. And I, even though I saved a lot of money while I was earning a lot, I had saved a lot of money, luckily. But like I said, because it all came in such a in a year that the bills were really high, I still blew through it pretty quick. And so I can't. I have always been cautious. Like even if when I was earning a lot, I didn't do bought luxury stuff or went on vacations or something like that. So because of that, I feel like I'm still. That's why uh, I didn't went completely under in those 3 years, but still I blew through the money pretty quick. Also, yeah, I couldn't. I was working alone for a big period of that time. Like I said, because my wife didn't have a lot of a stable job yet, and even though I did well, I felt guilt, and that was probably just as worse as feeling stress about not knowing what's going to happen and having to pay bills as a and growing your debt. Uh, because you suddenly, and I'm not so used to that, you suddenly have to start asking people for help. And what I noticed is that, um, yeah, of course, you don't talk a lot with people about your financial situation in general. So a lot of people still see it as if you did something wrong or you didn't save enough or they think you were spending too much or like why were you a freelancer at all? Uh, why you choose to take so much risk? And yeah, of course, some of the criticisms are justified and others not. But yeah, just asking for help feels, borrowing money and bothering other people about it. It really feels bad. So it just adds on top of all the stress and despair and I know it isn't always justified, but you still feel it. And you start to doubt yourself, you start thinking like that you make big mistakes and you start to to blame yourself for giving your family and your wife all the stress. And of course, all of that also leads a lot of anger towards yourself and just anger in general about the situation. And all in all, a big sandwich of negative feelings for a very long time. And yeah, I talked about feeling guilty and that it's not always justified. Of course, you can't just hit a perfect storm, right? But there are still things that I now learned, the mistakes that I made along the way, and now, of course, they are probably yeah, I will never do something like that again. So maybe me and my wife had just had to go through this yeah, this period just to learn some of the most valuable lessons that you can learn in life. Um, so let's talk about some of the mistakes I made along the way. Number one is not paying off my debts quicker when I actually had money. I had some, uh, I didn't have a lot of debts. Like I had some student debt that I paid off every month a little bit. I remember having a lot of money in the bank, but I never really paid off that debt. And even though it was a small monthly payment that I have to make, relatively small, uh, it added stress at the moment that I it added stress and an extra burden at the moment that my bills were high and I could have avoided at least having to pay that if I would have just focused on paying that off completely at that moment that I had a lot of money. So yeah, that made me think like debt should always be your first priority if you have a lot of money. Like pay that off immediately, even though it might hurt. You know, even if it's a couple thousand and you have to drop it. If you can, just do it because it can hit you later on, can give you so much trouble. And yeah, well, another sort of related mistake with that is that I was earning so much, but it's like in my country in the Netherlands, you also get like a little bit uh money from the tax office to, I think they call it like, they do that like to help you with your healthcare support or something like that, and that was about 120 euros per month. But if you earn too much, you eventually they will say like, hey, you shouldn't have gotten that, so you have to pay that back. And that was a bill I got later on, so I had to fully pay that back every month, a part of it. And so that added to, yeah, my debt burden at the moment. I could not have that, so it was another lesson. I should have just not accepted that. So that's a strong lesson, guys. Like if you do, if you if you feel like you're needing you're earning a lot of money and you're living in sort of like a socialist oriented country that supports you, its citizens in various ways, be very careful. Like if you can miss it, just tell your government like, I don't need it. It gives you, it might be hard, and it gives you a little less income, but you're gonna bite the it's gonna bite you in the butt later on, at moments that suddenly you have no money and or less money, and then they're gonna find you, and they always find you at the same as with my tax bill. They always find you at the most at the worst moment with telling you that you have to pay something back or yeah. In this case, this is that little bit of support that I got monthly. So yeah, be careful with that because those amounts, it's maybe a small amount every month, but it adds up, and then suddenly, if you get the bill back, it's can still be a lot. So the last 3 years, I have been paying that back monthly, and yeah, all those small amounts add up if you can't afford to lose it. Nothing is for free, right, guys? So be careful if you be so careful if you're receiving money from the government. Uh, Another mistake I made was spending the money that I was earning, spreading it too much. Uh, yeah, tried my luck with some investments here and there, but yeah, I took a little bit. over the top with spreading your eggs, and don't spread your eggs in one basket or something. And I did all kinds of little investments, and some of those investments actually they popped off. But I realized if I had concentrated a little bit more, I would have been better off along the way. So that is something, yeah, to think about. Like I went so overboard with it. Like I did a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there. But I now learned it's just like, yeah, spread it, keep it compact, and maybe, one index funds, and that's what I do now. Like I put a little bit in one index fund every month, like 10 or 20 euros, and a little bit of Bitcoin or something like that. But never spreading it out so much anymore. That's something very, very valuable I learned. Another mistake that I made along the way is not taking enough time to expand my client base or working hard enough on my side hustle. I did some side hustle stuff here and there. I published a book and got active with that. But yeah, you sort of become compliant. You sort of become satisfied with the customers you have because they pay you well, and yeah, of course, it always was a little bit in the back of my mind, so I should not lose them. But I felt too comfortable with it. I thought like, okay, been doing this, working with this client full time for a long time, and they would not let you go that easily, but it still happened. So it's easy to feel safe too too quick or too easily feel safe. And yeah, I learned that even your best clients can pull the rug under you, and you're left with the bag. So I should have just been way more active expanding my client base and pursue other opportunities. And that in that regard, you should spread your eggs over more baskets. And it's hard as a freelancer because with all of this stuff, because you go up and down constantly, up and down with clients and with income and with work. And yeah, if especially if you live in a high tax country like I'm from the Netherlands, and if you're if you pay a large amount of your income to them, it's very hard to for freelancers because yeah, you should actually be stabilizing your income, because otherwise have a have a stable income, because if it goes up and down and the tax bill hits you at the moment you're low, yeah, you're gonna feel it. So if you're from a country like that, I think most of your income should actually go to saving for your next tax bill, more than you think of. And I never had such a very high tax bill. It always was like doable, but because I'm a little bit behind, because I'm a freelancer, I can pay later. And suddenly that my first really big tax bill hit me at a very bad moment, and I never experienced that. So now that won't happen anymore. But if you are a freelancer, especially starting one, and you suddenly start to do good, like don't do like what I did, like invest or focus on your investments, or but instead, like I said, focus on paying off your debts and saving for your tax income, because yeah, those are the two things that should be your main priority, and you should definitely be aware of ahead of time of the tax bill that is coming. And because otherwise you get surprised like me, and I got really surprised. It was pretty horrible. uh yeah, and then the last thing that I really regret is like not taking enough time to actually enjoy life and do fun things. Uh, Even when I was earning well, I was still always working. because I wanted more, or I wanted more security, or I felt I could not let my clients down. I didn't even take vacations, but you see, like, it didn't matter. The rug was still pulled under me. And yeah, protect yourself, guys. Protect your health and your your mind, and don't think like, oh, the people will respect me more because I don't never take vacations. It doesn't matter. Um, if the company doesn't need you anymore, they will throw you out anyway. And I learned that the hard way. I was always working. I never did something fun, and so even when I had a lot of money, I wasn't really enjoying it. And that also brings me to my next point. So uh, how I how I try to get myself out of that financial trouble, and what changed and what didn't. So yeah, just as that I didn't took the time for myself when I was earning a lot of money in terms of vacations, with doing fun stuff with my wife. And I also wasn't having it when the financial trouble started, of course. So in that regard, nothing changed, and that is, yeah, that's a hard realization. Like, you earn a lot, uh, you work hard. You don't earn a lot, you work hard. So that is, yeah, it's really a trap. And if I would go back to the same level of earnings as then, I would really, really uh, just make sure that I'm conscious about my free time and do more stuff, fun stuffs, together with my wife, and maybe take a vacation or something with her. And uh, yeah, so in that regard, nothing changed. And of course, then you start to realize, like I just mentioned, like, hey, I need more clients. So I was grinding it out with my existing clients, and actually, yeah, of course, too late. Um, Started looking for new clients. And I remember it's, yeah, another, it's sort of all like a perfect storm, because it was like, in one way I was lucky because it was during the COVID period in which people started to work online more, and I already was doing that. So yeah, a lot of people around me had to change, but for me, a lot of things stayed the same because I already was working online, and more people started to, a lot of like companies started to offer more work online. But as the years passed, it was also the same time that AI came up, and that was something that also changed my work completely. Uh, because like I'm a writer and a content creator, and almost immediately my work changed from actually creating the content to editing the content. Like, that was an overnight switch, and suddenly the work and the clients also started to dry up. Like, it's really, I noticed, like, it's probably not only AI, but also like shifting things. Like, some of my clients told me that SEO practices changed so quickly that they couldn't catch up anymore, and that would mean that they would have less work for me as a writer, or because they were just, yeah, how do you say, chasing the carrot or something, constantly, and I couldn't catch up. And yeah, I just really started to notice that I lost a big client at a moment that the whole online working space started to change. Like, and probably also the economic situation, probably because of COVID. And yeah, just a lot of changes in the world, the war probably in Ukraine, and all of that sort of like put extra pressure on people and companies, and like where like as 10 years ago everything was possible and there was an abundance of work, it suddenly started to, I noticed, start to dry up. So that it became really grind to just accept more from my existing clients, and at the same time finding new ones. But I was grinding it out, and I was sort of forced to, that's probably a good thing, to seek other ways to earn. And one thing that came into my life was live streaming via TikTok. And it was a completely new thing for me because I'm not that comfortable with live streaming at all. And I'm also not how, I was never really a fan of TikTok. I thought it was horrible, but I tried it out, and strangely it became, especially in the begin period, pretty successful. Like I just hit a certain wave with the type of content that we were doing, and we met a lot of amazing people, and we had some success. And yeah, it was a totally new thing, and I would have never experienced that if I would not have gotten in financial trouble that way with my wife. And yeah, she helped me a lot with that period because I sort of got into it, rolled into it because of her, and we started live streaming together, and yeah, that was really special. And we did that for a while, and yeah, it was a big eye opener because it was like the first time we were really not like, or at least me, I was not working for a client, but really like yeah, having your own concept and having to make your own decisions. And it certainly learned me to be flexible and be more uh, outward instead of inward as a writer, and doing everything visibly while people are watching a live stream. Very special. So that was a big change. And I am, well, probably in future podcasts I will have this, well, have, I will speak more about that experience and how it created autonomy and more freedom, even strangely at a platform at TikTok, as TikTok, which I would have never thought it would. Uh, yeah, what all of this taught me was like, yeah, this whole experience, and now that we are slowly starting to crawl out of it, uh, yeah, it has made me realize that I never want to experience something horrible like this again. Like, uh, I'm not gonna lie or make myself a victim or something like that. Like, I made mistakes, obviously. I always worked hard though. I'm not someone to easily give up, but I put a lot of, yeah, stress on my wife and my family, and with borrowing money from family members, putting a stress on them as well, and putting stress on my health, so the health of my wife, and yeah, just generally not being able to live healthy, or yeah, or just be there for your family and for your friends, and not being able to yeah, give them nice things. Or I'll never want to experience that again. And I learned a lot. And that is one thing I learned. And yeah, maybe I just had to go through that to just have that realization. And it's some of the worst things you can experience. And of course, I am I still consider myself lucky that I have such amazing family members that were able to help me in this difficult time of need, and that I have such an amazing wife who's able to grind it out as well with me, and has patience with me, found patience with me, and of course I realized there are people that have it way worse, like way worse. Like, yeah, I can complain, but I always still had, even though I always do my best to still stay independent and not rely on it and not take it for granted or something. I am, yeah, I'm a European, and I come from a rich country, and with various yeah, ways of support that are sort of like lost, that are, even though I'll try not to take them, at least that they are there, and I know that. Um, that there are like support, safety nets that at least will not put my wife and me on the streets or something like that, or live in super terrible conditions. I know that, even though I will go out of my way to make my own money. I'll like in those last 2 years, like I have grinded it out day and night. Like I rather, if I have work and if I can take on work, I'll I rather like just completely go robot mode and work day and night, and then if I have to step to to my family members or for help, or that is really like one of the last resorts, and then the very last resort would be the government, because I really don't want to depend on the government, and one of the reasons I just explained, like they um, they are much more harsh in getting back from you what you asked. And but no, I'm definitely of the mindset that I want to do as much as possible myself. And but of course, it felt horrible to ask for help with family members, and it felt horrible to have such high levels of insecurity and just not knowing what was going to happen, and what would be next. Like maybe really losing your house and having to sleep with someone's couch, or moving in with your parents again. And of course, yeah, I'm 40 now, so that's an age you really don't want to do that. So that is, long story short, that is why, yeah, now that I'm crawling out of it, and now that I started this podcast, I want my financial freedom to be my number one priority, and that is going to affect my podcast as well. Like I'm talking about intentional escapism a lot. I have in various different ways. If you look at my previous episodes, I talked about how you can intentionally escape in creative practices, and in making yourself more healthy, so that gives you a lot more freedom. And yeah, there's also like intentional escaping in a recreational way, like watching movies or books. And I still want to make that a part of my podcast, but I wanted to transform it a little bit from, yeah, just providing sort of general intentional escapism information, and sort of shift it more towards my personal journey in gaining more freedom. And yeah, I know that my content then will like strongly focus on me, but I will always do it with the intention of providing yeah, entertainment and education or advice to you guys. So yeah, that you can watch my journey and learn from it yourself or be inspired by it and maybe try out the things, yeah, that I'm just follow me along and maybe try out the things that I'm doing as well. If you find it inspiring, again, I'm I'm by no means an expert in finances or health or something like that. So uh, for the serious stuff, always consult with professionals, health professionals, or financial professionals. But I hope in one way that my journey will be of inspiration to you guys. I guess that is the main goal, that I inspire you to seek your own freedom, and a sort of underlying base under that, that you yeah, see the all the different ways that you can chase freedom and yeah, become more independent, become more autonomous. And this is, I think it's really important because I see so much, yeah, more and more I see that we are losing our freedom in various ways, like whether that is algorithms or because we become more sick by the food that we're eating, or that we become so manipulated by 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 bad actors, in politics or um, you know, or what companies are doing. So yeah, I think more and more I start to find it important to seek that freedom, and I know it's pulling on me. It's I really feel an urge more and more suddenly, like to step out of the red race. It's pulling strongly on me. It's a strange experience. I've always sort of been on the sidelines, also because I'm a writer, so it's sort of my main mindset that you should document the world around you. Uh, but I strongly have a feeling I need to go hardcore more on it. And yeah, one of the that of course can be done in multiple ways. But I started and I experienced a little bit with that, like for example, also on the public side, uh, I showed ways to intentionally escape, but I felt that I need to be a little bit more like focused, and because I keep wanting to do too much and wanting to do things that are maybe not should not be on my path yet. Like for example, I always try to like start a garden, but then I become so busy with, in this case, getting out of debt, that the garden gets neglected. So yeah, that is a little bit that should then not be my priority if I'm not being able to take care of it. Um, yeah, then I'm wasting time and I'm wasting the garden. And so I noticed that a lot of things like that, like in the garden, um, yeah, certain side hustle projects, perhaps, that those are steps that should come later, I guess. And maybe that could be different for you, like I talked earlier in the podcast, like your situation could be totally different. But for me personally, I started to feel like, yeah, I'm not there yet. And if I constantly start to, uh, yeah, if I certainly start to engage in those projects, then I will. never really get somewhere. So I started to think like, okay, what is the main priority? And of course, the main priority should have been what it has been the last 3 years since I got in so much financial trouble. And I'm starting to pay off debts, but I'm not there yet. And yeah, I feel like as long as that is not resolved, or at least in a way that I don't have to work my behind off to reach a positive balance every month in my budget sheet. Until that time, um, I should be really, really more focused on the financial side of this freedom journey that I engaged on. And so I thought, like, yeah, why not just double down a little bit and focus more on it with this podcast? It is a part of intentional escapism, I feel, like become financially free. And yeah, throwing those shackles off is important, guys, because I started to realize, like, yeah, when you're in debt, like, other people depend on you that you pay that back. Like, uh, the garden is something, yeah, the plants, they are alive, they need water, but they will not knock on your door and come take away your television or something like that, or to make an extreme. Uh, so yeah, I guess, like, if you don't want to be dependent on the government, or having to on guilt on of about having to pay money back. So I think that, yeah, at least for my personal situation, that the first shackle that should be thrown out is definitely the debts. And after that, we could, yeah, at least probably not all of them, because by the time I'm done, I'm probably 3 years ahead again. But like, for the time being, I sort of want to make that the main focus of my podcast. And I probably, if I get bored with it, I probably do occasionally talk about some other topics as well. But yeah, for now, I want to make it a big focus. And I think it's good because it gives me another, like, way of being active with it, in sense of the podcast. Like, I do it privately, but I do it also now do it publicly, and in a sort of like entertainment. I should not say educational, because it's financial, right? Entertainment way, uh, for you guys. So maybe that gives me it's some satisfaction as well, because of course it can be a very, yeah, it's not the most exciting thing to work away your debts. And yeah, if you're looking at a debt mountain, it's very discouraging as well. So you need all sort of like the motivation and energy that you can get to get yourself through it, especially if the debts are high, and you need to keep going. And I guess by making it publicly, I also give myself a stronger, and announcing this, that want to focus on this. And maybe even set a goal for when I want to be debt free. Maybe that's a good thing to talk about in a future podcast. But at least by talking about it, it gives me more accountability. Um, um, yeah, because I put this out in the open now. And so I have to come through it, right? Like, now my reputation is on the line or something. And so yeah, it might not be the only focus, but it will be the strongest focus of this podcast for a while. Like, sort of gaining financial freedom. And I'm not gonna talk about specific investments or get rich schemes or something like that. Like that. Let that be clear. It will just be like my experiments and my thoughts yeah, about how my journey is going, and yeah, sort of showing you guys how I deal with that, and yeah, I'm curious to see if I'm bringing it public, if something changed in my mentality and how to do it, and how to approach it, and what I can find out. Maybe some out of the box thinking. If you guys, uh, yeah, find it interesting, or dealing with similar situations, like make sure to share your thoughts with me. It can be in private or in the public comments or anything like that. Like I love to hear from you guys and how you are personally dealing with it in your own situation with debts or financial struggles, or how you get out of it. Success stories also more than welcome, or ideas. I love to hear that. And yeah, with that, I'm gonna leave it for that here right now. And I hope this episode gave you some insights. And yeah, I'd love to see you back in the next episode. I will come up with something, uh, yeah, with the next step in this journey to see what I can talk about in terms of, um, yeah, throwing this financial burden off. Again, it's important, I think. Lastly, also because I think like um, this is also stuff for future episode, but maybe to sort of like throw the seed there. I I see a lot of evil aspects in how the money system is run, and how it sort of money can give you freedom, but it can also like really trap you with your mindset. I talked about it in this episode. Like, even though you have a lot, you want more. Or yeah, I'm gonna focus a lot. I guess like also on, yeah, just finding a way to not like to get out of debt. I'm not only wanting to focus on like getting more money, but also saving more money. That's going to be an aspect of future episodes. I look forward to that as well. Although, like I said, I have to be careful because, um, yeah, you have to focus on the on the on the strongest effect first. And for me, that personally right now is I'm just grinding it out with the clients that I have, because like, yeah, I might put my garden up and save 1 or 2 euros because I don't have to buy a certain spice anymore. But yeah, at the same time, if I'm focusing on the work that I'm actually doing, yeah, I earn a couple 100 euros extra. So I think I start off with um, focusing more on the earning side for myself. I have to see how I turn that into content, and or privately I focus on the earning side, and maybe publicly as a fun thing, sort of like split it in between. I focus on the saving side. That is something I'm thinking about uh, uh, right now. So maybe working in private on with my clients, because of course that's something I cannot show anyway. And then maybe publicly work on my garden or something. That could be sort of like still a final solution. I don't know how you guys look at that. Like, also let me know what you think about that idea. But yeah, enough rambling, enough food for thought, I would say. And yeah, by talking like this, new ideas pop up. So I will definitely be listening it back at this episode as well for yeah, the ideas that came up and see how I can turn it into future content. I hope you guys will be there for me with me with on this journey. And yeah, I hope you get something out of it, whatever it is. And at, at the, if it's going to be anything, I hope you at least get inspired to throw off your own shackles. Maybe not even financial ones, but just, yeah, this personal stuff that you're dealing with in your life. And yeah, with that said, guys, thank you so much for listening and watching and staying with me till the end. If you came to the end and you're still listening, please drop a, what should we do? An orange heart in the comments. Yeah, and of course, keep an eye out for future podcasts. Love to see you there. And make sure you like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, make sure to give me a review. That would certainly help me a lot. And with that said, thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you all. And take care, fellow travelers, on your own journey.